Hello, I'm Matt Kaplowitz. Thanks for joining me. We're going to spend a few minutes going through 10 tips for reading aloud STEM books to preschoolers. Now, the big point about reading aloud any book is that reading the words on the page is only the beginning. The process starts way before then. Number one, choose the right book. Pick a book with character, setting, and themes that you think your child or your student will like. Then read the book yourself and make sure you spot material you might want to skip or use or change at a different time. Once you're ready to start the book, initiate a discussion and just compare that book with other books you and your child or your student might have already read. Number two, once again, before reading the book, ask yourself the question, what kind of learner is your child? Is your child a sensory learner? Is your child a visual learner? A tactile learner? Get materials together that your child enjoys and are comforting to her or to him. For example, sand, rice, fabric pieces, finger paints. And since there are all of these other objects, it's important that your child is always supervised. Also, collect tactiles from around your house that your child has experience with and that you can use during the story. One thing is to get a box, put all the tactiles into a box, and then talk with your child or student about those objects. Are they the same as in the story? How are they different? Once you're ready to actually read the story, keep in mind to keep your child an active participant in the story and in the storytelling. Ask simple WH questions. What do you think is going to happen? Where do you think the object might fly? When do you think the next thing might happen in the story? Why do you think that happened? Once you're into reading the story, take your time. It's important to convey the richness of each page and to make sure your child understands the words. You never have to read a whole book in a day. You can look through the book and decide natural places to break the book up so you can read it over 2 days or 3 days. Main thing is to take your time, enjoy the book, ask the questions. Once you're on each page, before you're reading the words on the page, pick 3 or 4 objects. They might be objects relating to the STEM elements of it. It might be relating to some of the social emotional elements, including facial expressions, body language. Pick the objects to describe and go through them one at a time before you read the words. Typically, it's best to start from the specific and go into the general so that you point to the individual parts of an object, point them out, and then explain how they all fit together. Number 6, as you're reading the book, use vocal expressions to model the emotions, the social cues, and distance. Use the cues so that we know what the reaction is to objects that you're looking at, to what the reactions are to other people looking at it. The vocal expression can make a big difference. He lifts the object right up. She's really trying to pick up the object and she's trying very hard to lift it. Use your voice to help paint the story. As you're going through each of these pages, let your child or your student help tell the story. Predict what's going to happen. not only the WH words, but what are some of the elements that are happening within it in terms of, if it wasn't built like this, what if it was upside down? What if it was night? What if it was day? What if there were animals around? What if there were people that came in and asked questions about it? How would that change the story? Another fun thing to do is rhyming predictions. Think of rhymes and build them into the predictions. Here's an example. Anna built the blocks so high, they almost reached up to the sky. As you're looking at, and number 8, ask simple questions that explore feelings and foster empathy. Sometimes, even if it's a STEM book, especially if it's a STEM book, always keep the social emotional element as an important part of it. How do you think the people felt when they were trying to lift that element? How do you think the people would react if the wind blew so hard that they couldn't stand up against it? How do you think they would feel if the sound was so strong it almost stopped them from being able to think about anything else? What would you have done if you were the character and instead of building the tower, it collapsed? Number 9, the story doesn't end, the reading doesn't end when the story's over. When you finish the story, instead of just closing the book and saying, "Wasn't that a good story?" discuss it with your child. Explore the larger feelings and the larger issues using age-appropriate prompts. What was the story about? How was the problem solved? Continue to incorporate key STEM vocabulary words your child has learned into every conversation after that. Follow the reading of the story with a hands-on experience. If it's a story about the wind, be looking for places that there's wind or the movement of air and incorporate that into your discussions and your conversation. Last, number 10, make reading a family tradition. Reading isn't only something to do on a special occasion, and the reading that I'm talking about isn't before bed reading when your child is winding down. This is a special time of day set aside for that reading. Choose the time and engage their minds, not before bed, not before they're going to sleep. The other element of that is use a similar place all the time. Always do the reading in the reading chair or the reading corner. Keep it consistent, keep it fun, and always make it a part of the routine. So those are the 10 tips. Number 1, choose the right book. Number 2, what kind of learner is your child? Prep the reading by thinking about the sensory supports that your child can use and tactile supports for all children. Number 3, make your child a full participant in your reading experience. Load it up with WH questions. Number 4, take your time when reading the book. Number 5, on each page, before you read the words, describe 3 or 4 of the most important central objects. including facial expressions and body language. Number 6, use vocal expressions to model emotions, social cues, and distance. Number 7, let your child help tell the story. Let them do predictions, including rhyming predictions. Number 8, ask simple questions that explore feelings and foster empathy. Number 9, after reading this story, talk about it. And number 10, make reading a family tradition. Now we're going to go into Q&A, and I will be joined for a storybook conversation with Sarah Pedante, Chi-Ying Lim, and Christine Harradine, all from University of North Carolina's STEMIE Center.